Week 3 of the NFL season, the Broncos getting set to host the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday Night Football. And we are getting you ready for kickoff. Hello, I'm Phil Milani, alongside Sidney Jones and Eric Dalala. Guys, let's start off by talking about the Broncos offense. 0 for 6 in the red zone so far this season. Some struggles, but also some positives. Sidney, it seems like this is still very much a work in progress.
Yeah, Phil, I think the offense is a work in progress. And we've heard that from, Russell Wilson, head coach Nathaniel Hackett this week. I think Russ does have the chemistry there with, some of these receivers, some of these tight ends. We saw him connect a lot with Courtland Sutton on Sunday versus the Texans. Courtland had a really great game, his 5th 100-yard career game. He had a really good connection with Jerry Jeudy before he left the game with an injury on Sunday. He found Eric Saubert for a touchdown. I think the chemistry is there, but like you said, I think the offense is a work in progress, and we're going to see them continue to get better in all areas of the game moving forward.
Yeah, they just got to work on a couple of things. Certainly penalties. Heard Russell Wilson say that's going to be a big focus this week. Eric, what about those red zone struggles? Because I imagine that in this 49ers game, the first time they're in the red zone, there's going to be a monkey on their back.
Yeah, it's a mental deal at this point, I think, just as much as it is for the team, but for the fans in that stadium. They're going to be watching to see what happens. I think it's one about execution, which Russell Wilson talked about. I mean, on Wednesday, he essentially ran through 5 different scenarios where the Broncos had really good chances to score touchdowns. So that's part of it. They've got to be a little bit better, a little bit sharper. And then the play calling too. Nathaniel Hackett's talked about that he's got to maybe rely on the run a little bit more down there. They've got to be a little bit crisper in their passes. And that should lead to some success. You just hope they're able to figure it out because they've had some really good things happen in general on the offensive side of the ball. They're in the top 10 in total offense. They just haven't been able to finish. And so they see the potential, but points are what really matter.
Eric, one good thing for the Broncos is Russell Wilson has had a lot of success in his career against the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, that's right, Phil. His most touchdown passes against any team have come against the 49ers. His most wins against any team. And, talking to Kyle Shanahan on Wednesday, he said, even when it seems like you've got Russell pinned down, like you've got him in your grasp, you've played great defense all game, he'll find a way at the end of the game to put up 21 points like that. And so there's something about Russell Wilson against this San Francisco team where he finds success that should give the Broncos fans some faith that they're going to be able to find a way to get this done this weekend.
36 touchdown passes in his career against the 49ers. All this talk about Russell Wilson, though, everybody's, looking into all the nitty-gritty with him. On Wednesday, he was asked this week, hey, have you thought about running the ball yourself some more?
No, I think we were getting the ball out really quick in the first game. Second game, we were trying to make contested plays, and then really when you got guys like Javonte and Melvin run the football, I mean, we've rushed for 150 some yards. Just getting them the football as much as possible. I'm always ready to take off if I need to in certain situations. But it's really the guys have been doing a great job of just getting open and trying to work and make plays.
So while the Broncos have done a lot of good things on the offensive side of the ball, certainly penalties, some pre-snap miscues, just some operation errors overall have been the talk of the town, really, guys, these first 2 weeks. The Broncos do lead the NFL in penalties. Sidney, will that get cleaned up this week?
I think so, Phil. Kind of like I mentioned earlier, I think week by week we'll see some of those issues get fixed. And Coach Hackett said this week, he was the first one to come out and say that those game management miscues that we've seen need to be fixed. And, communication between him and Russell needs to be more clear, more concise. He needs to make those decisions faster. He needs to get them to Russell faster. So I think they are working on, fixing that this week. And I think we will see a difference on Sunday.
Yeah, 2 delay of game penalties on 4th downs. Yeah. Seems like maybe just some indecision there, Eric. Are you expecting just a cleaner operation this week?
Well, one of the negatives is that Sean Hockley is the referee this weekend. He calls among the most penalties in the league, and so it's possible the Broncos could be cleaner this week and still be penalized a little bit. So I wouldn't worry too much if you're a Broncos fan about that. But I do think they'll clean it up, both in terms of the things you can control, which are the delay of games, the false starts, those sorts of things that are, I feel like those are focus type penalties where if you're a little bit more locked in, a little bit sharper in the operation, you can fix those. And then there's some penalties that they just happen. If it's a defensive holding call or, down the field in the middle of a play, something happens. Those are a little bit harder to control. And so you want to minimize those, but really I'll focus on, can you clean up the things that are completely under your control, whether it's the things that come with game management or getting the line of scrimmage or even having the right number of players out there on the field.
Yeah, having Montreal Washington out there ready to return a punt, that's a big thing. Here's what Broncos head coach Nathaniel Hackett said about the game operations earlier this week.
I think that's something that we've really jumped into and wanted to make sure that we can get better at that. And it starts with me. And, I'm doing every single thing I can to try to put myself in position to be able to make quicker, faster, more efficient decisions. George, Mooj, all those guys have been absolutely spectacular in helping me through that process, because that is something that is new for me. And I think we're going to have some good answers as we move forward.
Let's talk about this Broncos defense a little bit now. It's one thing going up against Geno Smith. It's one thing going up against Davis Mills. Now they got Jimmy G coming to town. Certainly the biggest test so far this season for this Broncos defense.
Yeah, absolutely, Phil. I think the defense dominated last week against the Texans, but like you said, it's the Texans. They held them to just 3 field goals. They haven't allowed a touchdown in 6 quarters. So I like the way that they've been performing, but this will be a huge test on Sunday going up against Jimmy Garoppolo, Deebo Samuel, a guy who's really a jack of all trades there, especially with the secondary who's without Justin Simmons, one of their leaders. But I like some of the guys who stepped up in the secondary this past Sunday. Jimmy Garoppolo is a guy that led this team to an NFC championship last year. They went to a Super Bowl a couple years ago. Definitely should not be overlooked.
Yeah, he's played in some really big games. He's a veteran in this league. Going on the road for them, Sunday Night Football, that's no big deal.
Yeah.
No, and there's plenty of experience that these guys have playing with Jimmy Garoppolo. He's a veteran. He's been in this situation before. He's played at the highest level on the highest stage, and he just knows what to expect in this offense because he's done it for so long. And you think, okay, well, maybe the Broncos have a little bit of help because their defense practiced against this same type of offense all through training camp. But I just think with the playmakers the Niners have on the offensive side of the ball, Deebo in particular, there's a play against the Seahawks. They've got him in the backfield. They almost tackle him, and then boom, he's gone for 50, 60 yards just like that. So between his skill set and Jimmy just being super accurate, efficient, it's not going to beat you with his legs the same way that Trey Lance would, but he's in complete command. It's going to be a real challenge for Denver.
Yeah, just to give you the idea of Deebo Samuel, he has the same amount of rushing yards as Melvin Gordon this year, and he's a wide receiver. And so much talk about their offense. Their defense comes in top-ranked defense in the NFL. So this is going to be one heck of a challenge. Nick Bosa on the edge there has 3 sacks so far this year. So it's going to be a big test for this Broncos squad. Here's Bradley Chubb talking about Deebo Samuel and the challenges he presents.
You line him up in the backfield, line him up at receiver. You could probably play some quarterback if you needed to. So, we got to make sure we know where 19 is at all times. And his big thing is running after the catch, making big plays after the first contact. So we got to rally to the ball, make sure we all one big effort to get him down to the ground.
Time now to wrap things up with predictions. Sydney?
Phil, I'm going to be optimistic this week. I think the Broncos are going to win at home, 21-20. I think it's going to be a really close game. It's going to come down to, I think, our defense. But, through everything that we've talked about on this show, I think they're going to pull out the win.
21-20, a 1-point game. Okay, Eric?
Yeah, I also think a 1-point game. I think 24-23 Denver. I don't know that it's going to look pretty at first, but I think Russell Wilson has shown so many times he can come back against a San Francisco team. Like Kyle Shanahan was saying, you never know when he's just going to kind of explode there at the end. I think he leads that final drive that we didn't see in Seattle, and the Broncos come away with a win. And I think at the end of the year, Phil, we're going to look back and view this as one of the better wins the Broncos have. This is a good 49ers team that I think is going to probably march on and make a playoff run themselves.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. I think the 49ers are a really good team. I'm going to say 27-24 Broncos. I think maybe a late field goal. That could be the difference. D-Mac.
How far?
63. No, I'm just kidding. I think that Russell Wilson will look back at this game and maybe say, this is when it all started to come together for the Broncos. I really think there's been a lot of positive stuff. If you just clean it up, I think the Broncos can get a victory. But for sure, the 49ers, definitely the toughest test for the Broncos so far. This is going to be a big game. Sunday Night Football. Whole country is watching. The Broncos have had some success on Sunday Night Football, so we'll see what happens. The last time the 49ers were here, Peyton Manning threw a little 509. So in the blue jerseys, too. So a little Twilight Zone-y going on there. All right, that's going to do it for us. For Eric Delala and Sidney Jones, I am Phil Milani. This has been Ready for Kickoff.